In a spacious modern office with floor-to-ceiling windows that offer a panoramic view of the city's skyline, a man sits behind a large desk with a serious expression as he reads through the same documents over and over again. "Sir, should I ask the public relations to work on a statement to clear this mess?" Patrick, his personal assistant who was standing in front of his desk, asked, but he didn't receive any answer. "People are saying nasty things about you online. It might affect the company's image. You recently took over, sir. This is not good," he explained. His boss had been too awfully silent about this matter. Kodra looked up in disbelief. "Do you really think that a company that has been thriving for decades, the best in our field, will be affected by some stupid video and rants from ignorant fools on social media? Is that how little you think of this empire?" he asked. "Sir, the video is getting so much attention. The description is literally an employee calls out her boss, Mr. Holker, for stalking," Patrick pointed out, feeling like his boss must really not have watched the video. "These are jobless people with boring lives who are willing to jump on any trending topic. They base their claims on what gets them more attention, not on facts. They get easily swayed, so believe me, the narrative is surely going to switch, or they're going to jump on the next trending topic. So we're not going to fuel this drama for them. I have a bigger fish to catch. Because if there's something that isn't going to change, it's this rage in me, and there's only one way to appease it," he said, staring into the documents in his hands with deadly interest. Patrick even trembled in his spot. He was so glad he isn't the target of this crazed boss of his. "Is she here yet?" he asked with impatience. Patrick answered, "No, sir. I'm looking out for her." "Leave. Clear my schedule for the rest of the day, and do not show your face to me unless you bring the good news I seek," he ordered, trying to contain his impatience because he knows his time would surely come. Ina walked all the way to her destination. It isn't really a place she would like to rush to considering the reasons why she is going there. So there is no way she would use a faster means of transport to get there. She still arrived sooner than she had hoped. Right in front of her is the imposing building. It's a structure so grand it added beauty to the city, yet only brought fear to her heart. But there is no turning back now. She had to face the consequences of her impulsive actions. Once Ina got into the lobby, it seemed like everyone recognized her. She got the same looks she got from her former colleagues at the branch. Luckily, there weren't many people in the lobby. It's a working hour anyway. But she ignored the few glares she received. She walked towards the reception, even though the woman at the desk looked like she wants to land a slap to her face. "Good morning," she greeted, and the receptionist jeered at her. "You've clearly lost your sense of time. It's 3 p.m., she spat. Ina just remained expressionless. She had indeed lost her sense of time and everything else. She was just numb. Before she could correct her greeting, a young man approached the reception and told her he had been expecting her. He then asked her to follow him, and Ina did as instructed, ignoring everyone's glares as she followed the young man to the elevator. The elevator ride was a very silent one. Ina could tell that this man loathed her too, just like everyone else, but she understood why. From their perspective, she deserved all their insults and judgment. She herself had insulted their boss, so it's only fair. They got off the elevator and walked towards the door with a clear indication that it belonged to the CEO. The man asked her to wait outside as he knocked and entered. Patrick knocked on the door to alert the CEO of his presence and walked in. Kodra glanced up at him, hoping for his own sake that he had brought the news he was waiting for. "She's here, sir," Patrick said, relieved that the girl had shown up. He had been waiting for her since morning. After receiving an affirmation from Codra, Patrick walked out of the office and sent Ina in. In a normal setting, when people get the privilege of entering the CEO's office, they are captivated by the beautiful view of the city, the tall walls adorned with minimalist artwork, and the overall atmosphere of the luxury and power. But Ina felt like a lost soul waiting for her doom. She quietly stood in the middle of the office, not daring to use the high-end leather chairs clearly positioned for visitors. She is no visitor at all. Ina stood there for what felt like hours before the thick silence in the room was replaced by a husky voice. Ina Aneska, 24 years old, an orphan, a loudmouth, and a thief. After saying this, Kodra, who had been facing the opposite direction, swiveled his chair to face her. He had heard her slow steps earlier and purposely made her wait. He actually thought she would say something, but the girl didn't make a single sound. When Kodra read through her file yesterday, he realized she knows exactly who he is, yet didn't hesitate to insult him. She works for his company. She obviously knows him. So he wasn't going to have any mercy on her. He might have been a little more lenient if she had mistaken him for someone else, but it seemed like that wasn't the case. She was just some dirty cloud chaser using him for clicks and internet fame. When he turned around and looked at her, he felt a twisted sense of pride at her state. The daring, confident girl of yesterday was nowhere to be found. Yesterday, she was looking him straight in the eyes. But today, she had bowed her head in shame. And for some reason, this irritated Codra. He wanted to see the look in her eyes. "Look me in the eyes when I talk to you. Who is the coward now?" Ina raised her head and looked up, but still avoided his gaze. Sitting majestically is the same man she attacked yesterday. Now dressed formally in a tailored suit, he looked intimidating, his demeanor so severe it seemed like he was containing himself from leaping over the desk and squeezing the life out of her. He held a file with her name boldly written on the front. Ina knew they must have conducted a detailed investigation on her. She truly is at his mercy now. "So, Miss Ina Aneska, tell me, do I look like someone who would waste his time stalking a lowlife like you?" he asked, referencing her accusation yesterday. Ina couldn't even reply. She knows her own voice would betray her. And if she opens her mouth, her emotions will overpower her. She had already lost everything. She wasn't going to destroy her dignity more than she already has. "You aren't even worthy of mopping the floor I walk on. And you think I'd have an interest in you? Have you looked in a mirror before?" he sneered. "You can't even hold a candle to the kind of ladies who tirelessly pursue me. Yet you have the audacity to insult and look down on me?" He barked, growing angrier as he saw none of his words had any effect on Ina. She just stood there, emotionless, like someone deaf and blind to their surroundings, and completely unaffected by his berates. "You accused me of being jobless, but look how the tables have turned. You're jobless now, and I'm the reason you had a job to begin with. Yet you called me jobless? The audacity. A single phone call from me is enough to ensure you get arrested and stay locked up for the rest of your worthless life." Ina's eyes flickered at this. She doesn't want to go to jail. The only thing she is guilty of is insulting him. She has never stolen anything from the company. She was simply in a position where she can't defend herself, as he already hates her and thinks poorly of her. But she'd rather face the punishment for what she did than what she has no idea about and is innocent of. Kodra was so pleased to see the fear in her eyes. She finally had an emotion. That is exactly what he wanted. But prison is too good of a punishment for you. You're so poor, there's clearly no way you can pay the millions you owe the company. The best thing they can do is lock you up. And I won't have a chance to see you suffer every single day. I can't have that. So you have two options, he declared. I'll call the cops and have you sent to jail this very minute, making sure you never get out of there. Or you become my personal prisoner and serve me in any way I desire for as long as I desire, until I'm tired of seeing your ugly face, he stated. You need to answer right now, by the way. I'm not waiting on you. Ina knows none of the options is favorable, but if she goes to jail, that will be it for her. She can't afford a good lawyer and she has no one to help her. The only person who believes in her so far is Mr. Rani, but she can't compromise his job. He works for the hawkers. Going to jail entails being in jail, locked up for goodness knows how long, for something she did not do. But if she stays out here, anything can happen. Her situation could get worse or better. At least being out, she has options. I'll serve you, she whispered slowly, but Kodra heard her clearly. He was paying so much attention. I did not hear you, he said, sounding uninterested. I'll serve you, sir, Ina repeated a little louder now, though still with a weak voice. Good choice. Now get out of my office. I have better things to do than waste my time with the likes of you, he said, using the same words she had thrown at him yesterday, despite having spent the entire day reading every single detail about her and waiting for her arrival. Ina roamed the streets for hours, trying to make sense of why anyone would plot against her so mercilessly, especially someone she considers a friend, a sister, someone she had done so much for and would do so much more for. Back in the school district, Lilian, Gloria, and Jane were having a small celebration at the house. Their plan had worked better than they had envisioned. Everything fell into place perfectly and even exceeded the expectations. Lilian had been jealous of Ina ever since they met. Everything always seems to be in Ina's favor. She is beautiful and very intelligent. She was always among the best in class. Lilian couldn't even count the number of boys she had to fend off from approaching Ina. Even the boys Lilian liked always spoke of Ina. At one point, it felt like people only recognized her as Ina's friend. People Ina wasn't even close to still spoke so highly of her. Ina also has a rich aunt who gave her everything she wanted, so she didn't struggle financially throughout her university days. She was doing really well, unlike her whose parents had absolutely nothing to offer. And to make matters worse, everyone in the office loved her more than Lilian during the internship. This made Lilian and Jane increasingly jealous of Ina. It didn't help that they only got the chance to work there because of Ina, through the help of her friend, Derek. Once they discovered Derek's well-hidden secret at the handover party they attended, where Derek of course joined his family to support his brother, so they saw him with the hawkers. They asked around and found out the simple boy they had always ignored was a big deal. After that, They tried to befriend him, but he ignored them. This only fueled their envy of Ina's luck, knowing Derek would likely help her get a good job after graduation. And indeed, Ina got a job. It didn't matter to Lilian that Ina got the job due to her own hard work. Mr. Drani later told Ina that Derek was a friend of his son, so Ina just assumed that's how he managed to get them slots at Holker Enterprises. The girls never revealed Derek's true identity to her. They wanted to use her ignorance against her. Jane got a job alongside Ina, but Lilian convinced herself that she deserved the slot Ina took. Her jealousy of Ina kept growing, and Jane also began to loathe Ina, as she was more favored among the new employees. Together, they decided to plot against Ina to ruin her reputation, get her fired from Holker, and ensure she never gets another job anywhere else. What better way than to destroy her reputation entirely to an extent where even Derek couldn't save her? One of Ina's biggest supporters was her aunt, but after graduation, she had a major fallout with her, leading to a deep rift between them, so her aunt no longer helps her in any way. Her other supporter is Derek. They aren't the closest of friends, but Derek really likes Ina. They couldn't get to Derek, so they befriended Gloria, a junior in the same class as Derek, and she harbors feelings for him, though Derek only sees her as a friend. Gloria had grown tired of hearing Derek speak so highly of Ina and watching them socialize freely. She harbored animosity towards Ina and was more than willing to teach her a lesson. Lilian took advantage of this. They tried many tricks to turn Derek against Ina but failed at every attempt. Derek refused to hear anything negative about Ina. This only fueled Gloria's desire for revenge. Their previous plan had been to destroy Ina's image in Derek's eyes and ruin their friendship. However, that was proving difficult. Even if they managed to create a disagreement between them, there is a good chance they would resolve it amicably since they are friends. So they had to change their plans, needing a different approach to trap Ina and simultaneously destroy her relationship with Derek irreparably. They found the perfect target, Kodra Holker, Derek's elder brother. His immense power made him an even more valuable pawn. They devised their plan, but had to wait for the perfect moment to execute it. This opportunity came when Derek planned to go abroad, leaving Ina with no support. Derek left the school district a few days before his departure date, and Ina came to bid him farewell. After Ina left and Derek had packed, Gloria came to him, begging to spend the night at his house because her own was crowded with unexpected relatives. She pleaded and promised to clean up after herself. Derek agreed. He left his house keys with her and asked her to leave them with Ina after she is done. Derek, trusting Ina more than her, only fueled her desires to follow through with the plan to ruin Ina's life. That day, Gloria called Codra, knowing Derek's flight had already taken off and his brother could not verify her story. Meanwhile, Lilian had been planting ideas about a mysterious hooligan in Ina's mind for days. It wasn't easy to trick Ina, so they had to be very careful, and they succeeded. They wanted many people to witness the scandal, but Lilian knows that Ina would never embarrass someone publicly. Instead, they selected a secluded place and decided to secretly record a video. Jane's role was to destroy Ina's reputation in the office and frame her for fraud. They sent all the evidence directly to the headquarters because they knew of the branch manager's fondness for Ina. They then had someone post the video online and hid Ina's phone to ensure she remains in the dark and would walk to the office unaware. It was already dark by the time Ina got back to the house. She could hear celebratory sounds from inside. She opened the door and found the girls enjoying themselves. Their day had clearly gone well, a stark contrast to hers. They were shocked to see her. "My goodness, I could have sworn you'd be in jail by now," Jane voiced out, genuinely surprised. "Jane, don't be rude. Welcome back, Ina. Come and join us for the celebration," Lilian said with a smile. "I don't think she can celebrate. She got fired today," Jane chimed in. "Even better, she can brighten her mood by joining our celebration," Lilian said. "Why?" Ina asked, her throat aching from holding back tears. "What do you mean? Because we're friends, of course. Can't we party together?" Lilian answered, acting completely unaware. "Why would you do all of this to me?" Ina asked more clearly this time. "What have I done to you? What are you talking about? Friend? You've been praying for me to get a job at Holker Enterprises, right? Your prayers have been answered. Shouldn't you be happy?" Lilian said, "Yes, and we aren't going to work in the branch. We were both invited to work at the main headquarters, since we were so helpful in catching a thief in the company," Jane said, and they all bursted into laughter. Although it was clear Lilian and her friends had set her up, Ina still hoped in her heart that she had misunderstood the situation. She wished at least they would show some remorse, but the reality was far different. They had dug a deep pit and made her walk right into it. Now they celebrate her downfall. Ina felt devastated. Everyone who judged her did so based on a twisted version of her, with carefully prepared evidence against her. But these people, whom she regarded as friends, know the truth of her innocence, yet treated her like an outcast and criminal. "What have I ever done to you too?" she asked, struggling to believe they would be so cruel to her. "Oh, please, shut up, Ina. Don't act all righteous. For years you've enjoyed the spotlight as I drown in your shadow. And you act like you care?" Lilian sneered. "Don't look at me. I was just tired of everyone in the office singing your praises while you act like a queen," Jane added. Ina was stunned. It is clear she hadn't wronged these people in any way. Their actions were purely driven by jealousy. "And you, Gloria, are you involved in this?" she asked, looking at Gloria, who had remained silent. "All I can say is stay away from Derek," Gloria warned, shocking Ina even more. She views Derek as a younger brother. They were just neighbors who had become friends. Not even that close of friends. "But Derek and I are just friends," Ina defended. "Oh, shut up," Gloria snapped. Ina felt like crying, but refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing her tears. "Ina, as you can see, you aren't welcome here anymore. We are in the middle of a celebration. Since you don't want to join us, you need to leave. Take your bad energy somewhere else," Lilian asserted. "But this is my house," Ina reminded. "Not really. You are just a tenant, and a jobless one at that. You won't be able to afford the rent. Since we have jobs, we shall take over. Pack your things and leave. Jane is moving in and she needs space for her stuff." At this point, Ina wasn't surprised at the lengths Lilian would go. She couldn't believe she had been living in the same house with someone who hates her this much. "Pack my things?" Everything here basically belongs to me, she reminded them. Okay then, go ahead and pack them. If you have enough money to transport them and a place to take them to. Go on. Lilian shrugged. She knows the month is almost coming to an end and Ina has exhausted most of her money. She's basically penniless now. Ina packed her bags quietly as the girls danced around, celebrating their success and her downfall. With nowhere else to go but unwilling to stay, she took what she could carry and prepared to leave. Oh, so you're leaving now? You won't be missed, Jane mocked. Give me my phone, Ina demanded. Oh, your phone. Of course, Lilian said and retrieved the phone she had hidden, handing it over to Ina. A piece of advice as a friend. Don't go on any social media platform. Trust me, she laughed. Ina walked out as they laughed behind her, their dark humor echoing in the distance. She was just relieved to have her phone back. It has the contact number she had given Patrick, Mr. Holker's PA. As she walked through the dark streets, she recalled her harsh words to Kodra just yesterday. She had accused him of being jobless and wandering the streets. And now, the tables had turned. She is jobless, homeless, and roaming the streets. After a long time of aimlessly roaming the streets, a taxi slowed down beside her, and the young man inside asked if she needs a ride. Ina glanced at him with her lost eyes and remained silent. The driver got out, helped her with her bags, and urged her to get in. In any other scenario, this would be the perfect time to run away and scream for help because a stranger was basically urging her to get into his car. Ina's day had been anything but normal. At least someone had offered to help her, even though it's a total stranger. She wasn't really in the position to believe friends are better than strangers. So, Madame, where should I take you? The vibrant young man asked. Ina hesitated. She doesn't know where to go. She has limited funds, and the company obviously won't pay her for this month. She needs to find a place to stay, somewhere far from her old life. That leaves her with only one option. Can you take me to a cheap motel? She inquired. Of course. I know every place in this city. Just tell me which side you want to go, the driver offered. The south side, please. The slum district, she whispered. The driver was silent for a moment. Madam, are you sure? You don't look like someone who can manage life in the slums, he said. Ina had never lived in the slums before. She had grown up with her aunt in the western settlements, where the people are middle class and lived comfortably. After moving out, she had lived in the Eastern School District, a well-developed area where people from all over the country come to study. The slums in the south are far worse. Can you take me to a good motel there? She asked again. Yes, I'm actually from the south. I've lived there my whole life, and I've started my family there. It's not as bad as people make it out to be, he reassured. The living conditions aren't the best, but the people are so loving in their own way, he joked. In case you need any help finding a place to stay, just ask me. Ina's eyes flickered at this offer. This boy had just met her, yet he seemed to understand exactly what she needs. The motel, Tale, the driver brought Ina to, had clearly seen better days. Tale, who had already introduced himself to Ina, personally escorted her to the reception and booked a room for her. Ina was deeply grateful, unsure what she would have done without his help. Tale declined her offer to pay, explaining he was heading in the same direction anyway. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me, Ina asked. I may not know you, but seeing you wandering the streets, I recognize the look of someone going through a tough time. I've been there myself. I don't know your story, but I know things will get better, he reassured. Touched by his kindness, Ina simply nodded, appreciating the stranger who could understand her struggle profoundly. Tale left after ensuring Ina was settled, and she went to her room. The motel is affordable, so the room's condition matched its price. Exhausted, she turned off the lights and collapsed on the lumpy bed. Tale's words of reassurance echoed in her mind, but the reality of her situation weighed heavily on her. She cried herself to sleep, finally letting her emotions flow freely. The next morning, Tale returned to check on her, bringing breakfast since he knows the motel doesn't offer meals. Ina hadn't realized how hungry she was until she saw the food. She hadn't eaten anything for more than a day now, and she devoured the snacks gratefully. Although Tale is younger than her, his maturity and kindness are evident. He drove Ina through the slum settlements until they reached a small path. They stopped by a door where Tale called out loudly for someone called Sama. A groggy young lady who still looked so sleepy opened the door. Tale, why are you disturbing my peace this early? Sama complained. Tale informed her that he had spoke to the landlady that morning, and she said he could get the spare keys to the small room next to hers from her. He had brought a new tenant. Sama looked past Tale to see Ina. This is Ina, a good friend of mine. Take good care of her. She's your responsibility now, Tale said, surprising Ina with the good friend label. And Ina, this is Sama, the queen of the south. She's like a sister I've never wanted, Tale joked. After the introductions, Tale left Ina in Sama's care and went back to his work. Come on, let's go inside. I just woke up, so my house is very disorganized, but just ignore it, Sama said, leading Ina in. Sama was very vibrant and understanding. She didn't ask Ina any personal questions and said any friend of Tale's is a friend of hers. She quickly tidied up her house and even offered Ina breakfast, which Ina politely declined, saying she had already eaten. Afterward, Sama gathered her cleaning tools and they went to clean the room Ina would be renting. The room is similar to Sama's, small and simple, but in a good condition, much better than Ina had expected. So, now that we're done with cleaning, we can organize your things inside here, Sama said, reminding Ina of her predicament. She has nothing. I don't really have anything apart from the few things in my suitcase, Ina said, recalling Lilian's taunts from yesterday. Oh, don't worry. We can use my things together, and you'll eventually fill your house with everything you need, Sama encouraged, trying to change the topic after seeing how sad it made Ina. Ina was deeply moved by her kindness. After what Lilian had done to her, she had thought it was her fault for helping Lilian years back and letting her move in with her. Now seeing how Sama is willing to help her in a similar way, even despite barely knowing her, she realized the power of kindness. She had played her part. It isn't her fault that Lilian harbored animosity and turned out the way she did. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Actually, the thing is, my friends kicked me out of the house last night, and although everything there practically belongs to me, I didn't have the time, money, or even a place to transport them to, Ina explained, feeling a little more open-minded now. My goodness, I'm so sorry about that, Sama sympathized. Ina smiled. It's okay. As you said, I'll eventually fill the house with everything I need. I know, but you could feel it right now. Come on, let's go. Sama beamed. What do you mean? Ina asked. You said you didn't have a place to transport your things to. Well, now you do, and we have time, so let's go get them. She explained. What? But I don't have transportation. The only money I have left will be for the rent deposit and to get me through a few days, Ina explained shyly. Ina, let me worry about the transport. Tale didn't call me the Queen of the South for nothing, Sama bragged. She took Ina along to a truck station in the nearby town. There were so many people, and most of them seemed to know Sama. Before long, Sama herself drove out with a medium-sized lorry while Ina sat in the passenger seat, eyes filled with admiration. How did you do that? You spoke with those men and managed to get this truck for free? You even got those boys to accompany us for free, Ina marveled. Those are truck drivers. I know them very well. I've worked with them on several occasions. Down here, we help each other out. So we have this truck all to ourselves for the next 3 hours. Now, lead the way, Sama boasted. Ina directed Sama to her old place. They drove out of the south towns, through the city and to the eastern school district. Sama is an excellent driver, so they arrived quickly and smoothly. Luckily, Lilian forgot to take Ina's copy of the key yesterday, and she still had it, so she was able to get in. We're here. I only need the bed and the rest of my personal things, Ina said as she opened the door. Without a bed, she'll basically have to sleep on the floor. She doesn't even have spare money to buy a mat. Her budget is currently too tight. What are you talking about? Didn't you say you own everything here? Sama asked curiously. Yes, but I can't take everything. I don't need them. And besides, I don't have enough space to store them, Ina pointed out. Her new room in the southern slums is really small. Can't you sell what you don't need? You know what? Just show us anything you bought with your money. The boys and I will handle the rest, Sama assured, and she started pointing at various items in the house, asking Ina whether she bought them. Ina watched as they cleared out the whole house, including the curtains, the light bulbs, and every single food item she had bought. They carried everything out. After that, she locked the door and took her copy of the key back to the landlord. Loading the truck up, Sama drove them back to the slum district. The boys helped unload and carry some items to Ina's new room. Ina was so grateful that she offered to give some of the things to Sama and the boys, but Sama declined. Why do you trust me so much? What if I'm being dishonest and we just robbed someone's house? Ina asked. Then it wouldn't be the first time we have robbed someone, Sama joked. She and the boys exchanged meaningful looks and laughed it off. You've only known me for a few hours, yet you take such a risk? Oh, come on, Ina. It was fun. Besides, there is no definite time frame for knowing a person, Sama explained. And that made so much sense to Ina. Sama left with the boys and the remaining scraps they had got from her old home. She said she knows someone who could pay for them. Before she went, Ina gave her smartphone and asked her to sell it. She only needs a small phone for making and receiving calls now. She isn't going to ignore Lilian's last need piece of advice. She doesn't want to know the things people are saying about her online. On Lilian's part, she enjoyed the first day of her work so much. She and Jane had even made some friends in the headquarters. The best part is Ina had a lot of haters there too. She found out that Ina had been there the previous day and the CEO vowed to throw her in jail for a long time. She was only left free because the CEO wants to deal with her personally and clear his name. But he had gone abroad to join his family for a while, so he will deal with her once he gets back. In the evening, they passed by Jane's place and packed all her things, since she would be moving in with Lilian, like they had planned. While at it, they read out the nasty comments that had started to come up about Ina. People had actually started to notice from Kodra's expressions and words that he had no idea who Ina is. But Ina on the other side obviously knows him, since she is an employee at his company. It was starting to seem like she staged the whole thing for some internet fame, so the people online were confused. Others said she is an attention seeker with horrible upbringing, while some still believed in her, saying Kodra was just pretending and the girl couldn't have risked her job for nothing. Lilian really wanted to join the debates and post some horrible things about Ina, but Jane told her that it isn't a good idea because they don't know how things will eventually turn out. They had to act innocent. After they were done packing, they headed to their new fully furnished apartment that was just a few blocks down. Lilian was so shocked to find her things outside once she arrived. She started screaming wildly, but no one cared. She might have confused everyone else, but the people in this neighborhood know Ina, and they know the contrasting difference between Ina and Lilian. One passerby informed her that Ina had dropped by earlier and picked all her things. The landlord had then thrown the remaining things in the house out and locked his door, saying that he doesn't want Lilian in his house. Lilian was so embarrassed and enraged. She had really thought Ina would leave everything here for her. She and Jane wouldn't need to buy anything. Now she had been kicked out in the middle of the night just like she did to Ina yesterday. Her rage and hate for Ina only intensified. For the rest of the week, Ina familiarized herself with her new house and immediate surroundings. Tale and Sama were of really great help, but since they both had day jobs, families and friends to be with, Ina spent most of her days alone in the house, and she was just fine with that. They had offered to look for some manual jobs for her, but Ina politely turned it down. She was a slave waiting on her master. She no longer has the luxury of controlling her own life. That Saturday morning, Ina had just finished her morning chores when she received a call from an unknown number. She was a little skeptical but answered anyways. It was Patrick, Kodra's PA. Once Kodra kicked her out of the office days ago, Patrick was already waiting for her outside. He took her contact information and told her he would call her, warning her not to even think of fleeing the city. Her face was all over social media platforms. Finding her wouldn't be hard. Of course, Ina didn't have any plans of running off. Where would she go to? She answered the call and Patrick gave her an address, ordering her to go there without delay. Ina had been waiting for this call for the past few days. She thought she was prepared for it, but now she realizes she absolutely isn't prepared. In no way is she ready to face Codra again.